this is the only surah which has two sajdas. And mufassal, by the way, in the hadith refers to the last, from 49 until 114. So these three are mufassal. An-Najm 53, 84 and 96. Last some surah Qaf. 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 Yeah, we are going to get into that division later on. What is manzil, what is juz and his. So, but for now, one interesting thing about all these 15 verses is that they are all Makki verses. All of them were revealed in Makkah. And if you just wanted to know what this, how a verse of Ayat al-Sajda looks like, or what does it mean? Why do we need to prostrate in the first place? Because it's always a mention of Sajda in the verse, or something similar to it, and that's why we read. For example, in this one it said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إذا تتلى عليهم آيات الرحمن. When the verses of Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are recited unto them, the prophets and all those good people were mentioned in the preceding verses, خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا وَبُكِيًّا. So they fall down in prostration, bukiya, weeping. So that you see a mention, whenever they listen these verses, they fall down prostration and they weep. So that's a kind of telling us that we should also prostrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we are listening to these verses. So this is very similar. All these 15 verses, it has references to sajda. And you see this underline, it basically highlights the reason why we are making the sajda. So since the sajda is mentioned here, we do that. But how do we perform this sajda? How do we perform this sajda? How should we do? The minimum thing that we have to do, we read the verse just now, so we can just do Subhana Rabbiyal A'la 3 times, just as regular sajda. That's the minimum that you can do. Now you can add more things to it and make it much better, many levels. The list that I've put up here is like the you can say a perfect thing, all things included. So you make wudu. By the way, the scholars also said that you don't need to have a wudu for it, and you can also, because for example, you're reciting from memory. Maybe you're reciting Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq, and at the end you know for recitation from memory you don't need to have wudu, so you can make sajda without wudu. This was the opinion of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. Wudu is not required for this. Yeah, and the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah. So you make wudu, you stand up, you face qibla, you fold your hands, and then you go and make sajda regular. And we also have 4 different kind of variations. We can add more to it. We can add more dua. That is allowed. And then you make taslim, 2 taslims. So that is a perfect sajda. But you can just make three times Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. That will be fine as well. You will get the rewards. You will fulfill the sunnah, inshallah. If you read a verse of prostration, ayat al-sajda, and you are probably driving a car, right? What should you do at that point? So we have an evidence from this Sahabi, Sayyidina Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. He used to ride on his camel and he would recite this verse. So what would he do? He would do a linguistic sajda, meaning he would just bow down a little bit like this, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, 3 times. So that is also allowed. So whenever we are traveling in car, you just bow down a little bit more. Follow the Sahabi. That is allowed. Tasbih, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la. So that is called linguistic sajda. So tasbih. And also just a side point, scholars also mention that when you recite these verses in the salah, for example, you're reciting Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq, right? And right at the end of the verse there is a sajda, right? So when you go into the sajda, then you come back and then you're like, oh, I already finished the surah, so I might do ruku now. So you're like, the scholar said you will cause a lot of confusion. You stand up and you recite some other surah, maybe in Qul Allahu Ahad, Allah, and something like that to the end, and then you'd make ruku.